Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries. My name is Dan Ellen. I am joined by Ellen Thomas. How's it going, Ellen?
Hello, lovely to see you, Dan, and lovely to
see you.
To be here.
That was a sinister laugh, actually. Or was it cheeky? It's one of the two.
It was a bit of both. Very excited for today's episode. We are joined by Alex Gray, who is a storyboard artist and director from Denver, Colorado.
Very cool.
He has designed advanced storyboards and worked in the art department for countless high-profile projects. Most recently, TV shows such as Big Sky and Duster, and some films like Love Lives Bleeding, starring Kristen Stewart, and Opus, the horror musical, starring Io Adibri and John Malkovich.
Very cool. And also working with Vince Gilligan, who's obviously the creator of Breaking Bad, on his new, currently untitled Apple TV show, which hopefully we will hear a bit about.
So lots of exciting and current stuff, yeah.
Excellent. So without any further ado, welcome to the podcast. Alex, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
We are very excited. I was telling you just before we started recording that you're the first storyboard artist that we've ever had on the podcast, which is very cool. It's very close to my heart because I used to draw lots, although somewhere over the years that sort of like degraded into my storyboards for the films that I direct are very much stick figure drawings, more for the sake of speed. So I wondered what drew you into that world, and sort of how good of a drawer do you need to be, would you say?
Well, I mean, I think, the art almost kind of comes last with storyboarding. Yes, you need to be a good draftsman and understand perspective, but really it's more about the filmmaking and the storytelling. That's really what helps you the most with storyboarding, and it's the draftsmanship will help get you the job because it looks nice, it's professional, it's clean, it's clear. But I think I've seen storyboards from so many different artists over the years that some are very quick and rough and sketchy, pencil and paper. Some are done on computers. It's really just kind of your style and what you bring to it. And yeah, so I wouldn't say that the art is necessarily the most crucial part for it, but if you like to draw and if you want to do that as a profession and you're fast at it, that's the other thing. To be able to render something pretty quickly and not be precious about it either, where you can get so much detail just through a gesture and you're not really working on perfecting, the folds in a costume, and understanding too that this artwork serves a purpose, that it may not go up in a gallery. It may just be for the director, the cinematographer, stunt coordinator, everyone on set. It goes up on a big board on a live action shoot. It's on set. And they just go through and they check off stuff. But really, it's to open up the conversation for all that are involved.
Is that unless you're really unlucky and what you're working on turns out to be the next Harry Potter? The next thing you know, there's museums and your drawings that you did in like as quick a time as possible then end up framed and on walls and sold for money and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's also kind of a dream too. I'm based in New Mexico, Albuquerque, where they shot the Breaking Bad television show and Better Call Saul, and I just finished work on Vince Gilligan's next show, and they have a Breaking Bad museum here, like a store, and they actually have the storyboards there, like that they did.
Nice.
So you can just like flip through the scene, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, so yeah, you want to make artwork that you're proud of to send out there, because you don't know if it'll end up in a making of book one day. Or it might just be something for you personally, that you have afterwards and the crew members have afterwards. but also too, like they may go like, this is a great shot, but we're not doing it. We need you to redraw it. And you're like, like I spent, not hopefully not that long on it, but it may get thrown out in the creative process. So don't be precious about the artwork.
Yeah,
and
that's weird. Knowing that there is that sort of space, and those the storyboards for Vince Gilligan shows do get seen again and again. You've almost got this like knowing energy of like, oh my god, people are actually going to see this beyond the production. Is that exciting, or is that how does it feel?
It feels exciting. I think that I don't know if it'll actually end up anywhere. I don't know if there's going to be a museum of this show afterwards. But he's a very talented filmmaker and creator. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up somewhere at some point. And I'm pretty proud of the work I did on it. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think what's really the most amazing about the storyboarding process is like the conversation that it sparks within the creatives involved. I mean, just this past week, I was working on a commercial, and I worked with the director. We did the boards, and then it goes to the client, it goes to the agency, and then they're able to look and say, okay, this is what's scripted, but now we're actually looking at it, and the dog can't be there. The dog needs to be here, or we've seen too much of the dog. We need less of the dog. Let's put but the dog can't be, so this whole conversation happens because they saw a dog in the scene. And what's nice is that, then the director comes back at me and he's apologetic about like these nitpicky things. I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly how it's supposed to go. Because you get everyone's input before you've committed to shooting, before you've, spent all this money getting everyone at the same place at the same time to do something, and then the dog is in the wrong spot, and that note hasn't been addressed, and you're like, oh, well, now what do we do? So I find that is what's the most exciting, and to be a part of that process. And even when I'm actually storyboarding a frame, I have to take the time to think. I mean, it's not always up to me, but when I'm storyboarding something that I'm directing, I'm sitting with the frame and I'm thinking it through, and I'm thinking about how they're going to shoot it. And I'm thinking, you're just in the shot. And if you're kind of bored drawing it, it's like, do you want to shoot it? Is this worth it? Like, And that's not necessarily something that I then bring up to the producer to be like, hey, this shot is a waste of time. But I might say, if I have a thought about it, I might be like, I'm trying to think of an example, but if I see anything where it's like, if I have a close relationship with the director and the creatives involved, I might say, this angle is tricky because you're going to have to put the camera through the wall to get it. Just letting you know, something to anticipate that might happen. So either try and figure out a solution or use a different lens or things of that nature. When you sit with the frame for every frame of the sequence, you think about it as you're working on it more than you would if it was just a shot list, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me personally.
As a storyboard artist, you're more than just like an illustrator. You have to have sort of a much richer and deeper knowledge of all sort of elements of production and imagining how that would sort of materialize on screen. So what department does the storyboard artist fall under, and like what stage do you enter like the process of production?
Well, I think we fall under the art department.
Yeah.
Which is great, but I think we're the only job title that has the word story in it, which is kind of funny. But it's like I think you need to know quite a bit about filmmaking. I say quite a bit, but as much as you can. I don't think, that you can be a comic book artist and you can bring some of that knowledge of framing, of visual storytelling into it, into storyboarding. But knowing lenses, knowing directing, knowing blocking, knowing visual storytelling as far as just like, what's the hierarchy of a scene? Like, I might draw a table. There's a scene with people around a table, and I'm thinking, is it a round table? Or is it a square table? Is there a hierarchy within it being a square table where there's somebody at the head and everyone's around them saying yes or no? Or is it a round table where it's more of a community feeling? Are people standing up from the table? Are they walking around? These aren't always the decisions that I might be asked to make. That might come from the director or somebody else, but those sometimes are things that I'm like, wait, is it a round table or a rectangular table? And then I ask that question because I understand that this character has the power, and then at the end of the scene, this character has the power, and there's a shift there. So what about this table can we do to show that shift or the blocking? So I think no matter where in the profession you find yourself with filmmaking, I think that's it. You need to know filmmaking in general to be better at your craft, because then you know what the cinematographer is looking at, how the lighting is going to help the scene. You know what the actors are doing and their process. You know what the director, what the script supervisor is working on, and what she or he is thinking about. So you're able to feed into that and anticipate problems, or bring, your own knowledge, where you're not just like a pencil pusher or a monkey with a pencil, just like doing what you're told. I think if you're more engaged with it and you're more participant, have an active role, that helps with just the team and making, the finished film hopefully better.
And you're the first person that kind of visualizes the story. Like, that's really exciting.
It is.
I can see sort of the crossover as well, like why you're a director as well, because you, as Ellen's saying, like you're literally having to conceive. It's that conception of imagining what is going to be on screen. So you, like, how much do you get told shot lists in advance sometimes, or is you sometimes being given just like a sheet of paper, like a sheet of the script, and it's like, turn this page of script into a storyboard sequence? Like, what are you working with to conceive of these shots and begin to ask these questions?
It does depend on the show. In my experience, directors never have enough time, and that's not their fault. It's sometimes I worked on a show where I had 30 minutes with the director, and then I've done 4-hour sessions, that we had 5 sessions, and we were really like going through the sequence very carefully, and the cinematographer, the director of photography was there, and I'm just taking instructions at that point, where they have their shot list. They know it's going to go from this to this to this, and they just need to visualize it before they go out and shoot it, so that they can then use that to communicate what they've already gone through to their crew. Other times, like in the case where I had 30 minutes with the director, I was briefed. This was for the show Young Rock, where they needed to recreate a wrestling match that actually happened with The Rock, and they didn't have enough visual effects budget to show everybody in the stadium. So the director told me, I don't know what the shots are, but these are our limitations, and we only have maybe about 200 extras to try and make up the crowd in this wrestling arena. And that's kind of what I was given. He had ideas, but we only had so much time. So I then had to take the parameters of the job and the show and the limitations and go, okay, so if we can't show the entire whole arena, maybe we just have one visual effects shot that's showing the whole stadium. But then after that, we are in close-ups. We're looking down on the stage. We're looking up on the stage. At one point, they get out of the ring, and I'm on a long lens, so I'm very tight in on them. And you see people in the background, but we're really on the characters. So it's, how do you design a scene where you don't have enough extras and you don't have the visual effects budget to to copy them, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a fun challenge, and I really enjoyed working on that one, just to think, oh, I can't do this angle because of the creative limitations and logistical limitations we have. But, you know, what can we do? What would be an interesting angle? And that's where you start going, like, what if we were up looking down on the stage, and you almost get more exciting angles just because of those limitations.
You're literally having to be almost like
question.
Well, I was going to say, you're almost like having to be both a director and producer,
right?
As you're sort of trying to like piece it together. It is almost like having like a bonus producer / director who's like problem solving this, but coming at it from a purely visual standpoint, which I imagine is just, you know, so useful for literally like everyone else involved. In terms of like parts of the question, I mean, I feel like you sort of hit a lot of it, but, you know, just talking about, what you're given sometimes versus when you're given sort of a lot more sort of freedom and stuff. Like in TV, obviously the Vince Gilligan show, like, for instance, I don't know how much you can tell us about it, but like with that, I know he writes very like really great. What do I want to say? They're really visual and very dialogue focused, but there's a lot of silence in his shows as he sort of moves characters almost like chess pieces around the board. So with something like that, how does that differ to like the thinking about these creative shots and being conscious of budget, or is there more information fed to you? Do you have more time with someone like Vince?
Well, yeah, I think the storyboards help inform the budget too, where can we afford this shot? Or, okay, you have a lot here and we can only afford 3 of the 5. And then the director goes, okay, let me rethink this. Okay, it's better to hide, you know, I'm not going to give anything away from the show, but it's like, it's better to hide this element here. And that's another thing you can get away with, even with visual effects, where if you show what it is to the audience and then you don't show it, the audience has already bought into it's there, and you're making a creative decision not to show it now. So it maybe if it's for an animal, for example, maybe you only have, I keep using dogs as examples, but it's like maybe the dog
make
can't
all
do
content better, to be fair. So
exactly right, yeah. But it's like maybe the dog can't do this stunt, or this dog has to do this stunt. Actually, this did happen on a show I did where the animal trainer had to look at the boards and go, okay, that's too dangerous. This they can do. The other dog that looks just like this dog can do that stunt. So we're going to swap them out and give this dog a break. So for scheduling purposes, they can go, okay, this shot is Louie, the dog, and this shot is Potato, the dog. I worked with a dog named Potato.
That's so weird.
On cue, because the dog has returned next door.
Yeah. I thought that was a sound effect you just had to be like, here we go.
No, we haven't introduced the sort of live sort of DJ element to the show yet, where we add in sound effects.
We don't need to.
We don't need to. We don't
Clearly.
need to. But it was so funny as you were telling me about like looking at like dogs doing stunts and looking at the storyboards and being like, oh, they can't do this one, they can't. I don't know why my brain immediately went to like Tom Cruise-esque stunts with like, you know, dogs sort of like hanging off their airplanes, and these owners having to be like, oh no, you can't do that one, I'm afraid. Is it that one's
I imagine like a dog doing a backflip. That was where my mind went.
Well, I mean, one stunt that we figured out in storyboarding was this dog was supposed to chase this character through a door, and the character was supposed to get in and slam the door just as the dog is like right there. And we storyboarded it, and we were having a meeting with the second unit director, the animal coordinator, the cinematographer. Everyone was there, even like the main unit director. And we were just like, the animal trainer was like, that dog might be able to do this stunt once, but once it knows like you're slamming the door in its face, it's not going to lunge. And then in my head, I'm thinking like, that dog is going to like smash into the door, you know, like there's, how do you slam a door on a dog's face and not pinch the face and not damage the nose and not give it like PTSD. So then I proposed, I was like, okay, I know a little bit about visual effects. What if you did a lock off plate and you film the actor coming in and slamming the door, and then you shoot a plate of the dog just running in without the door slammed. So it's just coming into the door, and then you mirror, you not mirror, but you mesh those two shots together where the door is coming right when the dog is there. So you can line that up perfectly. So it's like just there, but it keeps the dog safe, keeps the actor safe. You can do as many takes with the door slam as violently as you want. The actor's not like, okay, are you far enough away for me to do this? Like, you know, so, and I think they ended up going with that. And that was something that, you know, you can write it in a script, but then when it comes to how do you visualize this? How do you keep it exciting? That's something that you figure out when you're storyboarding it with what the director wants to see. And then all the other departments are like, that's great vision. But how do you do this and keep everyone safe and have the dog, you know, have a good time at the end of the day? So,
do you have specialty? Sorry, no, you go.
Oh, I was just going to talk briefly just about the directing side of it all, of like how sometimes you are the director and you are the first one to kind of visualize it. But I don't want to say that to say like the director doesn't have any authority or authorship over it. I think sometimes directors can feel like, oh, is it really my vision if you're doing it? Like it, and it's like, no, it is. And I'm just here to offer suggestions because I know what the craft of directing is. I know what you're after. I know the kinds of things that you're up against. So what can I do to help you with that? And I can provide suggestions, and the best directors will take suggestions and ideas, and then they'll go, okay, that's the right idea that we do. And then that's their decision. That's their direction. And I'm just another cog who is a storyteller, just like the cinematographer, just like the actor. We're all bringing what we can to the project. But ultimately it lands with the director to make that decision. And sometimes that's me. Sometimes it's someone else. And
I was thinking that sounds insanely useful personally. I mean, having directed only on sort of, indie budgets and stuff, you know, it's almost you by yourself in that visualization department, sometimes with the DOP, but obviously, you've got so much time spent doing all these other things. To have that extra person, you know, thinking about those things and in your corner, I think, you know, you've got to let ego go a little bit, because essentially, like, if nothing else, it's an amazing jumping off point. But also, if someone can help you work out the shots you need for your sequence, then you can focus on, like, is the blocking right? Are my characters moving around that space in the way that I want them to? Like, what's the tone of the performances? And all these other things that are sort of a director's going to have to think about, regardless of whether they go for your exactly, you know, your suggested shots or otherwise. Do you often find yourself like then discussing everything with the director, or do sometimes they go thank you and then they take it away? Like, how involved, how much discussion is there versus how much is it like, you know, handing over the assignment when you're on that side of the process?
I think storyboards can change, of course. Not even just like the storyboards themselves don't change, but the shot changes. And this can happen, and more than likely will happen. I can give one example where we had storyboarded a shot where you're going to reveal these two characters in the frame. But then when we got on the set, you could only see one character and then the other character. And it, like, the lens wasn't big enough and you couldn't get further back, and it has to change. So what do? You're like, well, the point of the scene or the point of the shot is it's a reveal. So what if we change it and we reveal the character and their reaction to what they're seeing, and then they leave the room and then you tilt down to what they saw, and it's still a reveal. It's still a, you know, hopefully an impactful moment. But that was an example of a film that I directed where we had to change it on the fly, where we still kept what we were after, but you have to adapt and change it. And I think what the storyboard process does is it's a bit like a first draft of translating the script into a visual form. You're writing a script and you can do as many drafts as you want, like make the dialogue better, make the scene better, take that scene out. Like you do that. And then the idea that you just show up on set and we're just going to wing it. Some can do that really well, but for me personally, I can tell when that's happened. I can tell when whatever happened, either it was a creative decision or they didn't know they were going to shoot that scene that day and they just weren't ready. But it's like sometimes me personally, I think when you show up and you say, we're just going to see what the actors do, that's great. They will bring their own ideas, but actors also want to be directed and feel like there is a plan. So if they show up not having thought about the other scene partner in that scene, they're not going, well, okay, let's do it by the window, I guess. So having gone through a process of either storyboarding or you're doing your rough drawings yourself or some sort of previs, that will make a stronger film, in my opinion, because you've already thought about it and you go, oh, this would have been a better scene if we had rented a crane for this day to get this one shot, and then we don't need a crane the rest of the shoot. But because we didn't rent the crane, we're going to go handheld. We're going to follow the character around the room. It's going to feel kinetic and live, and we're in the moment, which, sometimes that can happen. I think Sean Baker makes a great career off of that approach sometimes, but he is planning his movie. And he is thinking through it very meticulously. And that takes a great talent to have it feel natural and have it feel like this is actually happening in the moment when it's completely false. So that does take a talent, but I would encourage young filmmakers and all filmmakers I talk to, not just because I'm a storyboard artist, but it's to think of it visually, think about how the movie plays in your head, and don't just show up going, well, we're just going to see what happens naturally. Because what you want to do is create a situation where something natural can happen. And those are those little moments that you go for it. And then if you have a great shot that is in the right position at the right time to catch that real strong performance, and you didn't have that performance wasted on, the camera operator going like, oh, maybe I should reposition over here, and then they lose that. You're like, or the focus wasn't quite there. So if the camera is rehearsed and the blocking of the camera and the relationship to the actors, you usually will end up with a better frame. The movie Dune is a great example of that, where
oh my god,
those shots are designed specifically with the music, with the moments. We're only going to use this one shot for this one line, because that's the impact moment. And
it's the sequenced versus coverage, right?
Right.
Where you're either designing a sequence or you're just saying, okay, this is the scene, let's cover it from like 12 different angles, and one of them's going to capture a good moment for one of those things. Sorry,
I was just going to say, thinking about the spectrum of storyboarding, you've mentioned some people don't storyboard at all, they don't plan, and then kind of you can have Dan Stickmen or something 2D, and then
very good
does it sort of how far can you go with storyboarding, 3D, moving storyboards? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, storyboarding has changed a lot from the pencil and paper days with an Alfred Hitchcock show to now you look at a Marvel film and it's pretty much all done in the computer beforehand. And it's called an animatic when you edit boards together, and that could be a combination of 3D and 2D and editing and some rough sound design and music, and that to me opened Pandora's box as far as like the power of storyboarding and what it can do, because you're introducing the fourth dimension of time with that, where you're now not just looking at stills, you're looking at the pacing of how information is going to be revealed over time. In a way, you actually get to make the film before you make the film. And animated films do this, where they need to storyboard every scene, and not even just every scene and shot, but they need to storyboard the beats of the character, of when they are surprised and how they react to that. And do they fall down? Does he stand? What's this other character doing while this is going on? They have to storyboard every beat down to the character level, subtext level. And you see that. And if it affects you emotionally, then on this crude drawn level, you know it's only going to get better as the animators bring their craft into it, and they add, everything just gets better from that base. So I think using 3D that you brought up, Ellen, that's incredibly powerful too. I use that in my work quite often, sometimes, where we have a location and I might go in and I scan the location in 3D. So I have it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And then I can go and put my camera on a 40 millimeter lens, like in this corner, and we're going to see this. And then the character is going to come down here, and then I'll just draw the characters into where they are. But I have a 3-dimensional model of the location itself, and that's how I can anticipate things like your camera is going to go through the wall on this lens with this sensor, this kind of camera, like, so just to know, like, this is a location or it's a set being built. Or I might go, well, the camera is in the wall, and I know that an operator needs to sit there, so I'm just going to push in a little bit and yeah, like, I'm going to try and make this feasible. And that allows me to be more accurate with my storyboards, where sometimes I'm watching the shot and it's exactly what we storyboarded, because I had so much information from the location that I was able to really kind of get in there. And directors appreciate that too, where I can go around the set with, like, we're not on a schedule anymore. We don't need to be in the van to go visit the next location. We can sit there and we can dream, and we can try this, try that, try this angle. What does it look like over here? Oh, like, yeah, I like this, but can you move it slightly to the left? And you start getting into some minutia. But the other side of that, though, is you can start to over control. You start to want to
give the actors no flexibility in a way.
Actors or they start directing it as if they're actually going to shoot this, well, and they will shoot it, but they're not to that point yet. So with storyboarding in general, I think don't make it too detailed, because they might start going, oh, this hubcap on the wheel, for this shot of the tire stopping, like, I actually want it to, like, and if it's over rendered, it can start to feel like, I want to change this, I want to change that. But if you keep it black and white, you keep it rough enough, subconsciously they know that it's not a finished product. So they can go, oh, this isn't quite exactly what I wanted, but it's very, very close. And I'm going to show that to my cinematographer, and we're going to then look at it on the day and be like, all right, well, the lighting isn't what we wanted, so we're going to just shift it this way to get rid of the lens flare and get that, but you started from the board, and you're like, okay, now we need to perfect it. We need to tweak it. And the actor is too high or too tall. So we need them to go a little further back so we can see their head, or we need to tilt up slightly. And like, all of that kind of detail stuff can be worked on, but at least, your grip department set up and rigged the camera in the right spot, and now you're just like right there, now it's perfect.
So you just say, would you need to be, nowadays, if you do want to go into storyboard artistry, do you need to be able to do 2D animation and 3D animation, would you say, to sort of deliver that successfully? Is that what, do you get asked to let's say you're doing some just drawing storyboards, do they then say, great, now we want to see that in motion? Like, do they all talk to each other, or do you generally get booked to do like one of the three things, like either 3D, 2D, or just drawings?
Drawing is still faster. It's still much faster than doing things in 3D. So
can I ask, how many drawings are you aiming for a day? I've been wondering.
Yeah, I think the average storyboard artist is around like 25 frames a day. And I can either do more or less, and I think it's like a throttle. You either are doing more careful artwork, well, careful in the sense of, like, maybe my line work is very polished, but it doesn't have shading, it doesn't have gray tones in it, but it's still very clear. It's not messy. It's not scribbles. It's not, my version of stick figures where it's just kind of like cylinders and circles. If you need 100 frames in a day, it's going to be circles with sticks, but you'll be able to...
my storyboards.
Yeah. So if you want to storyboard a whole movie, then, and you don't want to be doing that forever. So that's why a lot of animation storyboards are a little rougher, a little more sketchy, where this line goes off, but it's just like a gesture, but you still feel it. You still know what it is. So I guess it's like how much work there is to do, what we need it done in 3 days, or we only have budgeted for this much. So I throttle my style depending on, like what can I give them for what they're asking for? So I can do 100 in a day, or I could do 12 in a day, but like 12 might be color. It might be something for a commercial where you're presenting it to a client where they want to see the gorgeous sunset and they want to see this and that. And that's still working towards giving them an emotional feeling towards it. But perhaps these commercial agencies don't have the imagination, and maybe they're looking at going like, oh, we're shooting this in black and white. It's like, no, it's a storyboard. It's just black and white, so we don't have to think about the color palette.
Bold choice you made there.
Yeah. I'm just using that as an example, but it's like, maybe if it's like a stunt, or not even a stunt, but it's like for the show Big Sky, we had somebody was on came into a forest and their parachute didn't open all the way, and they get like twisted up in the trees, and they're like hanging, and their bodies kind of like just hanging from the trees. And I did a more careful drawing with that to show how this body is mangled and like twisted up, and like, the parachute's like pulling their face this way. And maybe it doesn't look like that at all, but it was to inspire like ideas of like, how could this person get tangled up in the tree? So I spent a little bit more time with that than if it was just like a circle with some sticks with like lines coming out of it. Like, this is a guy in a tree. Like, that can work. But I felt like in that moment, it was a concept art more than a storyboard, but the world's kind of
How do you decide which of those moments get more attention?
I think it's from a filmmaking storytelling perspective of like, because that's a big shock moment of like, oh no, this character didn't make it. So I picked that in particular, just because it was a major beat. It was a turning point in the scene. And then maybe the character's reaction to it. I know there's an actor that's going to be there, so I'm not going to really try and get their expression dead on and perfect. It's like, this isn't this is not what I do. The actor's going to bring what they do. So I'm not going to sit there and go, wait, no, the eyebrow needs to be slightly like, I don't want to get into that kind of minutia. With a live action show, if you're doing animation, then you do have more creative freedom to dictate what the character, how they're going to react to it, because that informs the animators, and the director can sign off on it, and then it can go off to an animator who just makes it much better than what I could have done.
I heard that I don't know if you've seen Michael Arndt's series about how they wrote Toy Story 3 on YouTube. But it's really cool, and he sort of goes through how Pixar do exactly what you're saying, where they'll literally like hand draw the film first with voices, with everything, getting those beats right. But I mean, what's crazy about what they do is that they will do that like 6 or 7 times and watch the film before they even start animating it, and then they rewrite the script, and they keep redoing things, resetting, and then redrawing the entire thing, because obviously it does sort of just, yeah, I suppose it gives them a chance to see how things are working and how they're playing and stuff. I think you're going to say sort of about animation, when you get into like animating something, just how much slower is that? Like why do we hand draw things first? Like when you need to do an animatic, how long does that take for one shot, or is that or can you do a few a day, or does it depend on the shot?
Well, I think there's some programs that can help with the animatic side. I worked in Toon Boom's Storyboard Pro, where you are drawing and you also have a timeline at the same time. So you're able to kind of almost be dropping it into a timeline as you're doing it and going like, okay, there's too much dead space right here, so I'm going to have like a character shift, or like I'm getting bored watching at this frame where 2 people are talking and it's just kind of dead space. I'm going to help it along a little bit. So you see where it needs help and where it can hold its own for one frame. So I'm thinking like an editor, you're kind of putting on different hats. Like here's the director of like how the scene should go. Here's my acting of as far as like how the acting would go. Here's my editor hat for how the pacing should happen. And then the drawing is also happening kind of at like the bottom of it all. But you're thinking about the scene and the show and the sequence. I think Blender can even do that pretty well too, where they have 3D and 2D capabilities and a timeline where you can be editing as you go. And you feel the pace of the shot and go, oh, the shot's too quick. Oh, let's slow it down. But I think introducing that 4th dimension of time, that does take a little longer. It does take, it's another hat to wear, and that doesn't typically happen in live action that much. Usually they're just looking for still frames. And maybe there will be like 3 frames for one shot. So it's the beginning, middle, and end of the shot. So if we're doing a big dolly move through a space, I want to show where the character enters, where they pick up the thing on the table, and then where they exit. And I'll label that, shot, 101-1, 101-2. So that indicates that it's the same shot. It's just I am using multiple drawings to convey that. Or you could do that in an animatic where you are also animating the camera, you're animating the character walking in. It could either be like keyframe where you have almost like a card that just has your character and you're animating that card through the scene, or you just have one card and then they jump, and so you're not dealing with keyframes necessarily in the interpolation between this keyframe and that keyframe. Sometimes you can I'm getting into the minutia of animation, but it really kind of depends on the level of finesse that the production is looking for. I think with live action and what I've been doing more regularly in New Mexico is just what is the shot and how do we set up for the shot? And then from there, they'll take it from there and they'll work with the actors, and the actor will say, I don't want to move all the way over there. And then they'll go, that's great. We're going to simplify it and you're not going to go to the table anymore. You're just going to go to the banister, and then it changed and what we storyboarded didn't end up working. But, it's in the service of making things better as you go.
You've mentioned a few softwares while we've been talking, and I wondered if there was like an industry standard software for storyboarding, or if there were any like free options to start out on, or a bit about the softwares you can use to storyboard.
And also devices, maybe. I assume you're not drawing with paper and pen, or maybe you are. But That's a great question, Alan.
Thank you for the question. For free is pencil and paper. But, well, it's not exactly free, but maybe it's very, very cheap.
With inflation now, biros are just crazy.
Right. Yeah. I can only afford 2 pencils now. Instead of 250 or whatever. So it's, I think that, working digitally helps you iterate quicker, where if you do it on pencil and paper, you're kind of more careful with what your drawing is because you can't change it afterwards. And then if you do have to throw it away, you have to start completely over. So a lot of storyboard artists will work digitally because they do have those layers. They can say, oh, this character is, can we change how they are? Like the frame is the same, the background is the same, but where they're at or what they're doing like needs to change. So you can kind of just hide that layer and do a new one. So I think Photoshop has been an industry standard forever, with just straight up storyboarding. Toon Boom has been around for a very long time, and their storyboard software is what I started in, and I still use it on shows every now and then. So that's a great piece of software. I also use an iPad with the Procreate app. I find that the fidelity of the pencil and how I can be very, very light with my lines, or I can be very rough, or I can go on the side. I love that kind of, it really feels like a pencil and paper. So I can finesse the way I normally would. Whereas if I just have like a really rough pen that's either black or white, like that, you can't be quite so gestury with your lines where it just kind of fades off at the end. You have to be like, you're like drawing with a Sharpie, it feels like. So, Blender is great. I'm actually learning Blender right now. I used to use Maya for everything for decades. I was using Maya, and that is the industry standard for visual effects and animation. And but I think industry standard is also kind of what was first. And a lot of production companies, they go, oh, offline editing, the Avid does it. So now Avid is industry standard because it was first. There's Premiere and DaVinci Resolve, and there's other programs out there that can probably do what Avid does or better, but Avid is what the workflow is built into. So they don't want to change it right now. So, and it's changing constantly too with certain productions. Blender was often said, oh, it's not industry standard. It's not, up to snuff, but then Flow comes out and wins an Oscar, and they did it all in Blender.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it was all through the viewport as well. So it was like a real time rendering. And I can go into Unreal Engine as well with virtual production, what's happening there as far as like a pre-production process. You can do pre-visualization now and get very, very close to what you're actually going to shoot. You've scanned your location in 3D. The DP has come in and set up their lights in Unreal Engine or in like a game engine, and then you're able to go in there with your iPad and it's tracking the camera, and you can actually line up your shots. You can do motion capture either with AI or with the Rococo suit, and you can really kind of like get into the nitty gritty of how are we going to shoot this. And so all of that software is great. So I can't say like, oh, this is better. That's not. I think whatever you have access to, just learn it and learn how you can make it work for you. I think there's parts of Procreate that aren't necessarily perfect for a storyboard artist. Like I'm just setting up layers, for my storyboards, and then I have to go and export each layer individually. It'd be nice if I could just batch export all of my layers rather than doing it individually, things like that. But I make it work because that's the tool I like using and I like the quality. Photoshop can do that. So I can move over to Photoshop, and if I have 100 drawings to do in 8 hours, maybe I go over to Photoshop because I can just export all the layers at once, and that, and I don't have to do 100 layers all at once. So yeah, I think it's find what works best and what works for your process, and use it and lean into it, and don't stop learning either.
Do you have like a Wacom tablet or like a tablet as well that's connected to your computer so you can draw? Is that one of those ones with like a display? Like, can you draw onto Photoshop, or are you doing the whole sort of almost right angle thing where you're sort of drawing but looking up at the screen?
I had early on, I had one of those. It was like a pad, and you're drawing and looking. And I think that's great to start. And you can get a lot of finesse just in a pen gesture. Your wrist moves a certain way if you are good at drawing. I think you can but it's a bit of a out of body experience where you're drawing here, but you're seeing something there. And for me, I do like to actually see where my hand is and where it's going, and I can just move a little quicker that way. It just takes a little bit of muscle memory to kind of get used to, like, okay, I'm up here and I'm drawing. But I love having the display, and I do have a Wacom and an iPad, so that's where I do all my work, because I can just really see. And the other great thing about the iPad is you have the touch function, where I think Wacom does this too, but on Procreate you can just push and like rotate your image, so you're not actually having to physically move your canvas. You're just like zoom in or double tap to undo, like those quick little things. Even the power of the undo is great with for storyboarding, because I can just be quickly moving and go, whoops, nope. But if I was doing that with pencil or
it doesn't disrupt the flow. Yeah,
you're like, well, I got to start over. So you can be more bold with your decisions and try something, and maybe it doesn't work, but you can have that creative feedback of like, I tried it, I don't like it, try something new, rather than do I just commit to it and throw a big red streak over everything. So I think, that's another power of digital is the magic undo button, where you can move a little quicker and a little more freely, knowing that I made a backup, So I can make notes on this document and know that I still have the originals over here. If they say, wait, go back to that thing, I'm like, wait, I already changed, I erased and did all this. No, I have a backup file. So.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Yeah, I remember the first time even seeing like the iPad with the whole like palm rejection thing, which was just certainly on like a consumer product. I hadn't seen that before. And sort of my experience of tablets was like, you'd have to like really sort of angle the pen so that your hand wasn't really touching the touch screen.
If it makes a mark, if like your side of your hand touches it as well?
Yeah, exactly, because it just couldn't distinguish between the pen and that.
So I use one of these, which is a
that's
glove.
Like some Minority Report level stuff.
Yeah, and you can get these on Amazon, where it's, for those that can't see me,
can you describe what you're showing?
Yes. It's a glove that covers my ring finger and my pinky finger, but it leaves my middle finger, my index finger, and my thumb out. So I still have the touch of a pencil, but what it's doing is protecting my hand from the screen. And it's not just protecting it from making a gesture or doing something on accident, but it can get warm, not just the device itself, but your hand and the blood circulation going through your hand. It keeps it from the sweat sticking your hand to the screen, where you don't have to kind of like keep your elbow and arm like raised above. So these gloves are amazing.
I love it. It's like some sort of superhero glove.
Yeah. Well, and people always ask me, like, what'd you do to your hand? You're like, oh no, it's fine. Like, it's not a cast. Like, this is just, this makes me look really serious and professional. Like, I've done this before, kind of thing. But yeah, you forget about it after a while, and it's just, and I've had this in them for years, and they're a great investment. You can even just buy like a normal glove and just chop off the fingers and just use that, Just don't get like a mitten or like some heavy duty snow glove.
I was imagining though, if you work hard enough, or like, over the years, you just slowly build up a tan on like, 3 of your fingers.
Working at the beach. That's something. That's great about being portable, with an iPad or something.
His pale two fingers.
Yeah.
No, I don't imagine it's much more, you don't want the wind sort of blowing all your pages away and stuff.
That too helps you kind of stay organized and you don't have, things all over the place. But, sometimes that works for people's creative process of having tangible things you can move around and swap out. Things can get lost or disorganized for me. And I like, things to be in order because that's when they're like, oh, this shot, can you go and switch out that? And I'm like, where is that shot? So organization is key with everything in this business. You want to know where things are at because I've worked on set, I've been on set, and there's no time. There's just never any time. So you just have to be as fast as you can because if you're the one slowing it down, then you are the worst. I mean, you're not really, but it feels like millions of dollars are being wasted on me trying to figure out why my computer won't connect to the Wi-Fi. Like, this is a horrible experience.
This could have been avoided.
So there's pressure there, but with experience, you get more and more comfortable with it. And I think for those listeners out there, like working as a PA or just being on set to see the kind of pace that things work at, it's much different than film school. It's different than working with your friends. There is a military kind of operation happening. And until you're there, like you don't really know, like, I think people underestimate the importance of walkie-talkies too, like how crucial those are to a set. And a lot of in film school, it's like you're just kind of yelling or you get up and you move to the other room and it's like on a show with 150 people.
That's my favorite thing about being on set. Like it never gets old. The walkie-talkie.
It was still sad and alone though when you have to hand it back at the end of a production and then you can't reach anyone.
I start wishing that I had it just in my daily life, like radio downstairs, like put the kettle on.
Right. Wait, are you missing being able to call downstairs, or are you missing that someone's not around Ellen to just?
No, I'm wishing that I just had my radio so I could use it in daily tasks.
I'm with you.
The efficiency.
Alex, we come on to our final couple of questions that we ask every guest. So the questions are: what were you doing during your teenage years that set yourself up for what you do now? Maybe both your sort of storyboarding and also your directing, and then also what advice would you give to that teenage self? But sort of baked into that what you were doing question, I wonder if you could sort of give us a sense of what people in today's world could do if they wanted to go into storyboarding, which I feel like we haven't asked you.
Sure. Well, in my teenage years, I was drawing. And I didn't know that I was going to be a storyboard artist at the time. I was just drawing for myself. And at the end of high school, I kind of had to make a decision like, do you go to art school? Do you go to film school? And for me, it was like, I've done the art like all throughout school, all through elementary, middle, high school. Like I've done it, and everything I'm drawing is around movies. Like I'm drawing Spider-Man in the corner of my math homework. I'm just constantly doodling, or drawing or doing something artistic. And I was like, I think this is a part of who I am, and I want to tell stories. So I'm going to go to film school so I can learn more about the visual storytelling. And I'm just going to kind of leave drawing over here. And I kind of just not abandoned, but just like it was over there. And I was into the live action side of learning visual effects and editing and acting, all that stuff. But then after being on a real set and having kind of my butt kicked, I was like, okay, I need to find a craft that anything can be thrown at me and I will be able to be comfortable with and problem solve. And that's just my own insecurity. I think a lot of people probably thrive on not knowing everything and not being able to solve everything. And that's great for them. But for me, I was like, I can draw. And I have studied directing. I have directed, and that's what I want to be in service to. So it felt like storyboarding was already there, and I didn't really discover that until much later when I saw an animatic from a storyboard artist that worked on the Marvel films, where he made this gorgeous animatic of a Halloween pitch that he put together. And I was emotionally invested in it. And it ended, and I was like, I forgot I was watching a drawing. And so that then like said, oh my gosh, you can make a film before you make a film, or you can film make alone almost, where it's just you and your creative thoughts. So I took drawing into my profession again, and picked up the pencil again. And that was something I didn't necessarily know at the time, but because I was drawing and honing that craft in my teenage years, that served me later on. And I think you can say, oh, I'm not a very good drawer, I can't illustrate or anything. That's fine. If you can understand it, it's still helping you in your filmmaking process. And I only got good from practice. So every kid picks up a pencil and they draw and they color and they do this. And at a certain point in their life, they stop. For me, I just didn't stop. And that's how I became better and better. And I think that's true of everything. It's just having that passion, and you have to do it, or you just keep wanting to come back to it, and you get better and better each time you do a drawing or practice at it. So that's what I was doing in my teenage years. That worked out. And my advice for myself as a young lad, I would probably say one thing is, don't get too comfortable in your day job. Would maybe be one thing to when you get out of school and you start working on jobs, you kind of get comfortable in paying rent and working. But for me, I felt like I lost some time where I wasn't progressing forward because I was just comfortable. So that would be to keep that fire alive. And if you really want to work in film and tell stories, then that will always be with you and be pushing you to get out there. So don't get too comfortable with the day job that's just paying the bills. For me, I just was like, I'm moving to LA. I'm quitting and gonna go and just try this. And I've been doing that ever since. And to find a craft as well, I think you study to be a director or a cinematographer or whatever it is. But if you want to be a director, no one's going to hand you a directing job. That is something that you have to almost prove yourself and do before anyone gives you a chance to do that. So if you can find a craft or something you enjoy doing, if you love like building and doing construction, maybe go into the art department or props or set design, or maybe you're you're a writer. Maybe you go into coverage, like you're writing coverage for scripts that come in. It's finding a craft where you can pop into a production, do your thing, and get out. You don't have to start something from the ground up and build a whole film that is going to be your directorial debut. If you can get in there and the big system is already working and you're just a wheel in the cog, you can get in there, see what's working, work with cool people, see like how things work, and then you can get out, and that will inform you for your directorial debut. So, and also pay the bills. So you're working a craft while also working towards something. Even like starting in camera, and just being a loader and learning everything about how an assistant camera works and how that's different than an operator. And you thought that, the cinematographer, you thought somebody did the lighting, but you're like, no, the gaffer does the lighting, and they're kind of separate from camera, but they do mesh. But you have to know a lot about electricity and like rigging, and you work more closely with the grips than you do with the actors, So it's figuring all of that out, and you kind of don't automatically know it until you've seen it. So I think I would just encourage people to also keep learning. Don't expect someone to come down and bless you with the knowledge of this is how you do it. I see that all the time online where people are just like, hey, fix this for me, or like, do a tutorial on this. And I'm like, this person spent 12 years of their life learning how to do that, and you want them to make a tutorial for you. There is going to be thousands of tutorials that will teach you the little itty bitty parts, and you have to pick up those nuggets and put them together for your style. So there's not going to be somebody that just comes and says, here is how you succeed at this, and just do this. I think you have to be constantly learning and stay in school and pay attention in school. I have daydreamed too much in school, but now that I'm older, I'm like, I just want to go sit in on a history lesson class, or let's go revisit, the Grapes of Wrath again, now that I'm ready for it. Some of that I wish I had done when I was in school, but when you're in school, in high school, you're still figuring out who you are and what, if people like you. And there's so many other things happening with you and you have so many subjects on top of you that it's hard to stay in it and be focused on what they're trying to teach you. But all of that will serve you well if you pay attention to that and bring that into what you do in your adult life. So keep learning, keep searching out what you want to know, and don't wait for somebody to come and give it to you. Go find it and grab it, demand it.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice.
Some of the most practical advice we've ever had, genuinely.
And
it was both holistic and practical, which was, really lovely.
And it relates heavily to what the podcast is all about, which is that filmmaking is made up of lots of small parts that interconnect, and that you're probably not going to start out as a director straight away. That's something that happens later down the line. And you can learn. Yeah,
well, there's life experience. That comes with it, It's one thing to direct a film, but you also want to have something to say, Maybe you understand film language, but what is your voice? And it takes a sec to kind of find what that is and how you fit in and how people respond to it. And that's something that some people do right off the bat.
It's like you're not going to write a memoir when you're 17. Well, you might.
You have to have a busy. I was thinking, who's done that? Malala.
Malala
quite quickly. But in fairness, she had a lot that happened quite quickly, to be fair, didn't she? So that's fair. But if you're not Malala, then maybe hold off before your memoir.
Just live in the moment and take it all in and be grateful for all of your experiences, because they're just crafting and molding you into the person that you are, and that you can't replicate. Tell your story, not someone else's story. You can of course have influences and grab from Tarantino, James Cameron, and all of them, and mesh them into what you like, and then you now have a voice, and you're just standing on the shoulders of giants, and you're the next generation. So
amazing. Alex, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful and amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a lot of fun. I was happy to be here, happy to chat about storyboarding, and I'll come back anytime.
Amazing. That was so cool.
Yes, it was. I went into that not knowing a lot about storyboarding, and came out.
And you come out a master.
Came out being like, oh, this is one of the most important roles in a production.
It's crazy, really. I mean, I think I said to him on the podcast, it's amazing when you're a director and you've got all those people sort of helping to sort of work out the vision, but you really do it as a storyboard artist. You need to have such a good knowledge of so many other departments. Which is what I just hadn't really fully thought about. The fact that you're having to visualize stuff and be mindful of the budget, you know that this kind of shot's more expensive, think about where the camera's going to go if you shoot in a particular space, and then where's the lighting as well, framing, what the different lenses are, I mean,
And Alex
on one level, it sounds really off-putting. Well, not off-putting, but it's like that is a big hill
overwhelming,
to get good. But also at the same time, I suppose there's the Dan Allen approach where there's no lens information and it's just stick figures, and it's more just like what is in the shot. But then this is where you end up. This is the people that are at the top of the game. Is that they have become just masters of all these different aspects.
Yeah. And Alex was at points speaking like a advanced cinematographer and like a producer and then like an animator, and that was just so impressive. No,
100%. I just was it the bit he was saying about working out if there's another way the camera could be, which was really just really cool, really interesting. And then was it also just what you're starting with, like whether sometimes you're given a shot list and sometimes you're not given a shot list at all? Because the way I normally start thinking about sequences, I mean, when I'm writing, because obviously I write stuff that I then direct, although I sometimes work with other people's scripts. But what I quite like doing is I will write every shot. Every sentence is a shot, basically, and then every shot's a sentence. I'm a big believer in that philosophy that every shot's a sentence. If it's not contributing towards the story, then it needs to go. Now, that might be the sun sets peacefully over the fields, full stop. That's how I'd write it in the script. That is its own shot. You could argue that's not advancing the story, but it is, because it's setting the scene in which the characters are about to, the action's about to take place. So that's how I like start breaking things down is writing from my first writing, rather than do the whole writing the actual shots on the script, which, especially if you're writing for other people, is generally not recommended. It's not generally recommended that you write, tracking shot. You
that's not up to you.
Exactly. Like you've got to have such masterful control for that to be accepted, and most people would just prefer you didn't have it in there. And often I write it like that sometimes, but then I often strip all that out before I send it to people, because otherwise, they didn't like it as much. Even if I know the shots I want, I just try to imply the shot, and the sentence could be like, oh, such and such begins to cry. It's like, well, that's obviously a close-up, you know what I mean? But you just write that as the sentence and don't add anything else, and then it implies that's your close-up.
And that is then serves as a guide to what is the setup going to look like.
100%.
It's like there's like the script to the list to like the actual setup.
100%. We've got a question, Ellen. This is from Millie, who's 17. Millie wants to know, do I need to shotlist my film first, or should I storyboard as well? So it's sort of like an either or neither question. Well, I suppose you could not, but it's helpful, I suppose, isn't it? It's like everything is helping you plan and conceive of potential problems.
Yes.
Is what Alex was obviously getting at.
And I don't think it's a either or situation. I think it's doing what you need to do to help you figure out what your film's going to look like, and how you're going to tell your story. So you could start with a storyboard or start with a shot list, or you could do them simultaneously. I think they can help each other and speak to each other. And I don't think you need to choose between them, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, you're going to write your shot list, and then on the day, you're going to realise you've got nowhere near enough time to shoot all these shots. So you're going to have to throw out half the shot list. So your shot list is good to have, and I would say very useful to have, so you know what you're aiming for. If you've got time in preparation, really think about which shots you could lose. Think about what the crux of the scene is. If the scene was one shot, what would it be? So that at the very least you can just tell that story beat. And then I would say if you're going to storyboard yourself, then what what are the sequences where the action is complicated, perhaps, and maybe you would really benefit from storyboards there to make sure that the action is going to hold together and to make sure you're getting the right pieces. Because for me, it's always the actions. Like, if it's a dialogue scene, sure, you can get your wide and your close-ups. If it's if it's more of an action sequence where there's quite a few moving parts, it's like, have I told exactly what's going on here, and is it visually clear? And sometimes you need to see that visually first. If you're not going to storyboard, and you don't want to get into storyboarding and you think you're a rubbish drawer, you can pre-shoot your film on your phone.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well.
With a couple of mates, right?
Yeah, like just to practice basically and see what it would look like on camera, but it doesn't need to be all dressed up and perfect. It's literally just to see the motion. And
screw the lighting.
So I think one of the first things that Alex said was, the quality of your drawing is not the most important thing. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can just do a really rough sketch, but there's such a huge difference from having visualized something in your head to actually seeing it in front of you as a tangible thing, of just like, even if they're stick men, like you are already such a further step than from when it was just in your head. So it's very valuable thing to do.
Absolutely. Be as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
That's, I guess the crux and the through line there. And lastly, I just wanted to I was just reflecting on, genuinely, I really loved Alex's advice answer at the end of the podcast. Like, I thought it was incredibly, we get a lot of really special sort of holistic answers and some really good practical ones. And I thought his answer really sort of blended the two beautifully.
I completely agree.
Thinking about what is that service that you can maybe offer the industry, so you can work within the industry whilst you pursue directing in your own things.
Yeah.
I edit films as a freelancer as well as directing them. And that has been useful to keep you in and around the industry and keep you meeting people, and both things can help the other, if that makes sense. And which I really loved.
Being there in any way, shape or form on set or in a studio or just, you're learning a lot, and it doesn't have to be your dream role or it doesn't have to be your end role. I think another thing that Alex highlighted is that your position within a production can evolve. He was drawing, and then he left drawing for a while, and then he was directing on doing other things, and he came back to drawing and then found storyboarding. So it's about trying things out and being active in what you're doing, but also not keeping yourself in a small kind of fixed place.
Absolutely, yeah. It's finding that thing that you're good at, that you can lean into, that you can offer the industry, and keep doing as well everything that sort of inspires you and excites you, and keep challenging yourself. I think was a great piece of advice. But you can check out Alex's work, Alex Gray Film, on Instagram and alexgrayfilm.com. That's Gray, Gray, not EY.
And he's got some great stuff, great exciting things coming out in the next few months or so. Yes,
stay tuned to some of his own directorial work, which is very cool. But Ellen, thank you so much for joining me on this.
Thank you.
It's been lovely.
This has been
and we'll see you guys on a new episode.
Lovely.
Don't forget to send your questions to podcast@youngfilmacademy.co.uk.
Goodbye.
Bye.